A recent study says when we eat something that contains a combination of both fat and carbs, the reward centers in our brain go nuts, tell us to eat more, and short circuit the part of the brain that manages food consumption. It was a great survival mechanism for the first hundreds of thousands of years in human evolution when food was comparatively scarce for everyone. But that's not the case today. And the San Diego County Fair is probably the best example of that. It's an environment rife with processed foods high in fat and carbohydrates.
It's a cinnamon roll covered with frosting, sprinkles, fruity pebbles, and then a unicorn bacon,
Whether all that sounds appetizing or not, for some reason we still crave concoctions like this. Dr. Eduardo Grunwald is an obesity medicine physician and directs the weight management program at UC San Diego. He says we desire the combination of carbs and fat without even thinking about it. We want it on a subconscious level.
So our genetic makeup is, yes, it's wired to always be seeking consumption of food, calories. It's also wired to always be sort of driven to consume high-calorie dense foods. It's just that in nature, that's hard to come by.
Research published in the Cell Metabolism Journal suggests the not-so-natural foods we create that are rich with both fat and carbs, like ice cream, cakes, and pies, overstimulate our brains, acting like a drug for most people and interfering with the part of the brain that says, I'm full. So not only do we crave fatty sweets, we often overeat them.
I got a hamburger, and after eating that greasy hamburger, you know where I'm going next? The Cinnabon place right over here. So if that answers your question.
Here's how that works. Dr. Grunwald says there are two major systems in the brain that regulate our weight and calorie intake. The first is the hypothalamus. It regulates our weight set point, kind of like a thermostat regulates room temperature. It's a primitive part of the brain that keeps us from starving to death when there are periods of food scarcity.
It's all really regulated by the brain, so there's different structures in the brain that regulate our weight through how we eat, which is below our conscious recognition.
Grunwald says the other part of this is called the mesolimbic system. This is a group of structures in the brain involved with reward-driven behavior, stimulated by the neurotransmitter dopamine. These structures produce the sensation of pleasure, for example, when eating pizza or ice cream. The problem in our environment is that these brain structures are constantly stimulated with the abundance of food that's high in fat and carbs. Dr. Grunwald says it's why so many people struggle with obesity and the health issues that come along with it.
There's a very complex biology underlying many people's problem, and I think to really address it, you do have to address both the behavioral aspect and many times the biological aspect.
So while there's a fix, it's definitely not magic, and the only unicorn is the one drenched with icing and covered with fruity pebbles along the sweet, tasty journey at the San Diego Fair.
Is it a unicorn in the sense that it's delicious, or is it a unicorn in the sense that there's a few calories in it?
No, it's tastes delicious.
The delicious part.
The delicious part, that's right.
Jade Hindman, KPBS News.